So today's film was film that just opened this weekend. It is the directorial debut of writer-director Cory Finley, and it's called Thoroughbreds. It played several festivals last year, so a lot of my critic friends have already seen it. I was interested mostly because it has one of the final released film performances from Anton Yelchin, and I just thought he was an amazing performer and a wonderful person. And I wanted to see his final performance. I haven't actually seen anything, I think, starring the leads because the few films they've been in are ones that I have not caught. But the lead actresses, it's mostly the two of them, are Olivia Cooke and Anya Taylor-Joy. They're playing characters named Amanda and Lily. They used to be friends, but they've sort of grown apart. They are now brought back together for tutoring. However, the Amanda character is, quote unquote, awaiting trial for animal, what do they call it? Animal cruelty. That will be explained as you watch the film. The other girl is off from boarding school. You find out the reason she says she's off is not the reason she's really off from boarding school. Anton Yelchin plays a small-time drug dealer who they sort of rope into an attempted murder of Lily's stepfather. Things go awry. Things don't go quite as you planned, but things do kind of go as you expect if you've ever seen a thriller. Both of the main protagonists are sociopaths. They never quite call each other sociopaths, but basically they're sociopaths. And there's hints at the various people in their lives knowing this about them. Obviously, with the Amanda character, everyone pretty much knows this about her. With the Lily character, you get bits and pieces where you kind of understand that her parents really do know that there's more wrong with her than she'll admit. I don't mean wrong as like judgmentally wrong. It was more like she needs care. And however, the film positions you mostly from Lily's point of view, a little bit from Amanda's, but mostly from Lily's point of view. And from her point of view, even though she's very rich, her life is not great, and she wants to blame it all on something, and all of this blame lands on her stepfather. And unfortunately, the character of the stepfather is not very well developed. He's played wonderfully by Paul Sparks. Paul Sparks was one of my favorite characters on Boardwalk Empire. He comes in, he's very menacing and very privileged, but unfortunately, he's never developed enough to make you wonder if he's just a 1% asshole, or is he really doing something inappropriate to his stepdaughter. You never find enough from him to warrant rooting for these girls to kill him. And I don't know if that's supposed to be the point. Like, you're not supposed to root for them to kill him. You're supposed to realize that they're sociopaths and that they're, the whole film is a commentary on their own privilege and how their privilege has turned them into sociopaths, or that sociopaths don't thrive in privilege. I'm not really sure. I feel like the film has maybe 5 or 6 different themes and points that it's trying to make, but it never succeeds in any of them. I also think it's another film that really tries to do teenage girls in a different way, but still fails to truly capture what teenage girls are like, mostly because I don't think male writer-director Cory Finley was ever a teenage girl. The actresses do a great job with what they're given, though, and they really play off each other well. But there are moments that are just sort of eye-rolly, and the few times that they're watching TV, they're watching old movies that are recognizably, from people who know them, public domain films. So they've done that because they don't want to pay for whatever, but it doesn't make sense within the characters for them to be watching those movies. So I found that really distracting, because I know that they're watching it not just because that's what's on TV, but that's what the production could afford, and that doesn't work for me. So really the main part of the film that I thought worked was Anton Yelchin's performance as the very much different class sphere drug dealer who has aspirations to be as rich as the children he sells drugs to. That said, he's also a registered sex offender for statutory rape, and yet he's the one character that you kind of like, and so that's hard to stomach, because was it not written well enough for you to like? I mean, I don't know if it was because Anton is such a luminous performer that he couldn't make even someone who's capable of statutory rape, like that wasn't enough to make you dislike him. I don't know. I feel like most of the characters were just not quite developed well enough for you to have real complex feelings for, because they all feel sort of one note, except the one character that you really, really shouldn't like. So that's an issue. I feel like there were a lot of things that were supposed to be commentary on class, but they weren't developed enough. The mom in particular, it's hard to tell if you're supposed to have sympathy for her because she married somebody who yells at her, or if you're not supposed to have sympathy because she's somebody who, blithely like tries to help her daughter get out of being in trouble for plagiarism. I don't know. It's very slickly made though, so it has that going for it, and there are bits of the dialogue that I thought were quite funny, but I only feel like as a dark comedy, I don't think it quite succeeds because I only laughed maybe twice, and as a thriller, I think it almost succeeds because there were a few moments where I was like, "What is happening?" And its use of sound was very good. I liked the way that it made you nervous through the use of sound. But I didn't dislike the film, but I don't know that it 100% succeeds in any of the things it tries to do. And I definitely think the very last bit of the film is its very weakest moment. That last scene is the weakest thing in the whole film. But it shows some promise for another film, I guess. And we know how Hollywood is. You show a little promise. If you're a man, you can make another movie right away. So not bitter about that at all. Lots of women have made much better first films and haven't gotten to make any other films. That's all I'm saying. So I definitely want to see more from these actresses. I think they're definitely interesting screen. They have interesting screen presence, and I wish there were more films for Anton. It's such a bummer. It's really tough to see. The very last sort of moment in the film says, dedicated in the memory of Anton Yelchin, and you're like, I don't know that I would compare this to any of the films that it's touting as being compared to. I definitely didn't feel anything like Heathers, other than teenage girls murdering. Like if that's all you got from Heathers, then you need to rewatch Heathers. Yeah. So this was Thoroughbreds. Came out in festivals last year. Came out in wide release this year. It's written and directed by Cory Finley. Thought it was all right.